Hello, Angie Gerber here, and welcome to my podcast, Awareness. Once you know, you can't unknow. A place you can come to start thinking and shifting your thoughts to finally create the results you truly, truly desire. It'll shift your mindset and give you strategies to get out there and get it done. Let's get started. So as a follow-up to the last podcast, I did a little bit more about my story. I was asked the question if I had ever tried to stop drinking before I was successful. And I thought back, and I guess I just don't go back there that often. And I thought about that too, and why I don't go and connect to my past and think about it so much, so often. Only really when I'm asked or, coming on here and talking about it more is I thought maybe it's because I was running away from it or I just wanted to forget it ever happened. And retrospect and just kind of looking at it a little bit more, I think it's just because it's no longer me. It's someone, that woman was in so much pain. And I just know I never want to, nor will I ever go back there. And it's almost like you can obviously still feel the pain and it's emotional. And again, with all of the energy work I do in thinking into results, to go to that energy level too much, it's not going to do anything for me. It's not going to get me to where I want to go, and especially not from where I am today to where I intend to go. So I don't not think about it because I don't want to, go back and relive it or give back or, remember. It's just so far removed. It's almost like another lifetime of, I'm just so not there anymore. I don't struggle with the addiction side of it. I don't, I'm in these Facebook groups or these different forums where women like 10 plus years of sobriety still struggle every day, which you may have heard me mention. And it's just like, wow, and I commend them because I can't imagine every day, like consciously having to get through the day and have it be another day where I don't drink. There's weeks that go by that I don't even think about it. It's not my go-to anymore. It's not my, way of numbing and taking what's not working and just layer upon layer upon layer of just pushing it down. And as I said last week in the last episode, yeah, that's really what it is. It's just not facing what it is you need to face. And instead, you numb yourself so you don't have to look at the reality of the situation or have that hard conversation or do something that needs to be done. Kind of take responsibility, face the music type stuff. So I did actually. The last drink I ever took was on February 3rd, 2017. And it was that New Year. So my New Year's thing was I'm going to stop drinking, and I did for 13 days. I didn't drink. And it wasn't until I got into, the 3 months that I went to AA and I was in, they call it the first step. So you actually go into a different room than the main meeting. It's for newcomers like me that need a little bit more, I guess, specialized attention or, to hear from people that had a couple years under their belt of sobriety and just kind of really meet you where you were. And it was so interesting because it was in that room, again, where I said things I'd never say out loud to anyone. I had isolated myself so much. I had layer upon layer upon layer pushed down all of what I should have been dealing with, whether it's in my finances, in my profession. I'm a real estate agent. I did less than half of what I normally did. So again, financial, definitely in my my marriage and, I didn't see my friends anymore. I definitely wasn't the best mother I could have been. So, bills weren't getting all that stuff. So, it's so interesting because it was in that room that I realized that I wasn't alone, and there were other people again that were just crazy as I felt I was. So, but there were two gentlemen, and they were older gentlemen, and one had 25 years and one had 28 years of sobriety, and they decided, they're at a family function, or it was just that day. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go back out, is what they call it. So they both talked about their experience with drinking again after so many years, thinking, well, it's been 25, 28 years, I'm sure to handle it. I've stayed sober this long, so I got this. One said he was back to the day he quit drinking within a couple of weeks, and the other said it took him closer to a month. But it was like instant, like wake up the beast. And they were back to that day that they quit 25, 28 years before. And it got me thinking when I got that question asked, and I was just like, oh yeah, I did actually. I quit. I remember it was 13 days, that New Year's Eve. And then my husband went out of town, I believe, because he's a big ice fisherman. So I got a lot of alone time with him, gone doing his things, which I loved. That's one of the reasons why, we clicked so well, because I got my independence and I could still do my stuff and he did his stuff. And, but he left, and I was like, okay, well, it's been 13 days, superwoman over here. I can have one. And man, did that start. That started the spiral. Like, I think it was like 2 weeks of just madness. That's when it was at its worst, was just those 2 weeks. I mean, the binging, what happened. And it wasn't until, again, I got into that first step room and I listened to those gentlemen that it kind of made a little bit of sense looking back on all of that, because though I don't struggle with it every day, and there are some people that do, and though I consider myself I consider myself recovered, not in recovery because of that, there's still, and why it's a disease, and why, there are different sayings and people show up in different ways at different, meetings or don't, is that it's a beast. It's a beast that lives inside of you. And I know that it doesn't go away. And I know that, perfect example, 25, 28 years, I can have one drink. Well, no, you can't. So I think it's in going back to those, couple of weeks before I quit for good, that, oh man, I just remember some of the things I did, some of the choices I made, how out of control I felt. And it's just one of those things where why would I ever even, I was talking to someone I'm really close to about this yesterday. And I'm like, again, there's not an amount of money, there's not an experience, there's not a material item that you could provide me with that would get me to take a drink. It's just not worth it for me. I mean, it cost me almost everything. Again, I was within days, I know, of losing everything that mattered to me. So why would I ever risk doing that again? And yet so many people do. And what is the difference? Again, what is the coping mechanisms? How can we solve this problem? And I don't know. Is it solvable? I think absolutely. I think that people just need to try what works best for them or what feels right in the moment. Like I said, I went to AA for 3 months. I was told to do it for 90 days, and I'm a rule follower, so I did. And it absolutely saved my life and did everything for me. And then again, it got heavy. And I know that some people are pro AA all the way. I mean, my dad still goes to his meeting after 40 some years every Monday night. I get it. And I think that works well. for some people, and yet other people it doesn't. So what do you do if it doesn't work for you? Where do those people go? How do they get their help? And if you happen to be one of those people or know one of those people, that's my people. That's the ones that, reach out if I can be helping in any way or get you resources or, what changed for me was my perspective. It was understanding and taking these blinders that I had, put around my face and really just getting a different perspective, getting a different understanding, coming out of the self-isolation I had thrown myself into and just almost living again. That's really what changed it for me. And it's really hard to do that. And it's really hard to do that alone. And another thing that just keeps coming up over the years of my sobriety is I'm a real estate agent. And it's so, everywhere I go, I talked to a woman last week when I was doing video for coaching, goal setting for EXP, my brokerage, for their Level Up program. And EXP just had a big conference in Vegas a week or two before that. And she's like, yeah, I told her a little bit about my story before we got, started, made sure that it was a fit. And she's like, wow, it just keeps coming up. You don't know how many agents came up to me. And that was just part of it, part of what they're going through. And I had some other real estate agents that coach other agents as well. And probably 80% of the agents she coached, that was a thing. Alcohol just got in the way. They do this and do that. And it's just rampant. And I'm sure it's not just, to real estate or real estate agents, but the woman I was talking with yesterday, she's like, we talked about it. And then she circled back a little bit later and she's like, I was thinking about that. She's like, and I just wonder if it's, because there's stress in every job, there's stress in every relationship. There's, you're not going to go through life without having your ups and downs and having to, work through a lot of different things. But she said, I wonder if it's, I'm at a 9-to-5 job where I don't even sometimes leave my desk for lunch, so I don't have that opportunity, but maybe it's because, agents have so much freedom, she's like, cause way back in the day when I got my first house, we went out for a drink. That's the first thing our agent did was bring us out, wrote up the contract, had some drinks, celebrated, whatnot. And she's like, so I can see that. And in her friends that are agents, it just revolves around that so much. So, I don't know. That's just something that came up over, in the last couple of days since I recorded my last podcast, and I found it interesting. It just keeps coming up. And again, it's not just to that industry. It's, I'm sure, very widely spread, but just something worth noting. Another thing that came up over this last week since I've last talked with you all was I had a agent who I joined EXP with. She came in from out of town and she'd share something that just broke my heart. And I think that because so many of us over the last couple of years and what we've been through have self-isolated ourselves. I can't imagine having gone through like COVID and quarantine if I was still drinking and what that would have looked like. If I could have had to have been isolated and done it even more, it would have been disastrous. But, and it doesn't even have to be with alcohol. I think that the uncertain times we're in and what happened over the past couple of years, it's just really messed with a lot of people. And she said, I have four sons between the ages of 19 and 26. Don't quote me. I believe that's those are the numbers. And she said, between my 4 sons, over the last 2 years, there have been 19 suicides. I mean, what the F? Seriously. 19. I'm just going to let that sit there for a minute because that just astounded me. And I'm like, whoa, and it doesn't even have to be with any certain substance. It doesn't have to be, with alcohol or with opiates or with, gambling, all the addictions, sex, porn, you hear about them all, work. Some people are addicted to work. I mean, the mental stability and the mental health of so many people that we know has drastically gone down. She said that these young people, in their early 20s, they're lost. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They want something different, but they don't know what it is because of just everything, how they grew up and what they know and don't know. And so I wanted to come on today and just mention this and go in a little bit deeper and just really encourage you to look around. Look around, and if you haven't seen that friend for a while, reach out to them. Or if someone's name or face pops in your head, please call them. I mean, we really need to do a much better job of slowing down, checking in on one another, taking the time to ask, how are you? What's going on? Ask questions that they have to answer, not yes and no questions. Like, what's one thing if you could change? What would you change? Or what would you make better? And just get people to really start talking to one another. And more importantly, listen. Don't listen to solve necessarily. Listen with an open heart. Listen to understand, not to hear and respond. I think that's so very important, and especially with coaches, I see it all the time. They'll cut people off as they're talking. They'll answer for them, or they'll just shut them down, and that's not helpful at all. What you want to do is have the heart of someone that's there to try to understand, that wants to understand, that intends to understand, and listen. And from there, see where it goes. But I just 19 suicides in 2 years of people between the ages of 19 and 26 in one family. What? Wow. And if that doesn't alarm you, I don't know. It should. That's all I'm gonna should. I'm gonna should on you. It should alarm you. So watch out for one another. Know that everyone you come in contact with is fighting their own battle. Big or small, every single person that is walking this earth is fighting their own battle. So quit comparing yourself to the top 5% maybe of people's lives that they're posting on social media. Quit feeling inferior, quit feeling like you need more or you don't have enough, that you're missing out, the FOMO and all of that the society is creating. And just know that people more than ever need each other right now. And just check on, make it a goal of yours to check on 3 people this week. Maybe do 1 a week, 1 a day. Whatever that looks like for you. But we really need to show up at a much higher level for each other and listen to understand, not to hear and respond. It will go a long way. I can guarantee it. So till next time, make it a good one and love one another. And just reach out and say hi to someone. It's been too long. Make sure that's where you want to start with that person. Take care. Thanks for spending some time with me today. And if you like what you heard, feel free to share, subscribe, follow, do whatever it is you do. I'd love to get this out to as many people as possible because it truly all does start with awareness. Once you know, you cannot unknow, and it changes everything. And of course, if I can help in any way, I'm here and happy to do so. Until next time, make it a good one.